be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brothers. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
The COVID-19 pandemic has sparked the increase in reports of racist incidents around the world. The crisis feeds fear, which in turn is manifesting itself in discrimination. 57 years later, his I Have a Dream speech continues to resonate with many Americans as they protest racial injustices and police brutality. The I Have a Dream speech was a vision of what we wanted America to be, what America can be, but is not yet because of stereotypes. We are not equal until we are all treated equally, and the people who want to say there is no racism today are deluding themselves. We need one-centered and professionally trained police forces, and that is what King wanted.
There are hundreds of human rights activists and social workers who are not only speaking for their rights, but who are struggling to achieve their goal of peace, education, and equality. Thousands of people have been killed by the terrorists, and millions have been injured. I'm just one of them. So here I stand. One girl among many. I speak not for myself, but for those without voice can be heard. Those who have fought for their rights. Their right to live in peace. Their right to be treated with dignity. Their right to equality of opportunity. Their right to be educated. Dear friends, on the 9th of October 2012, the Taliban shot me on the left side of my forehead. They shot my friends too. They thought that the bullet would silence us, but they failed. And out of that silence came thousands of voices. The terrorists thought that they would change my aims and stop my ambitions, but nothing changed in my life except this. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died. Strength, power, and courage was born. We call upon the world leaders that all the peace deals must protect women's and children's rights. A deal that goes against the rights of women is unacceptable. We call upon all governments to ensure free compulsory education all over the world for every child.
One child, one teacher, one book, one pen can change the world. Education is the only solution. Education is first. Education is vital in promoting growth, development, and essential in ensuring equality. Perhaps one of the most notable activists for equality in education is Malala Yousafzai. She is the youngest person to win the Nobel Prize and has become well known in the international community for her diary about her life under Taliban rule. She has and continues to raise awareness on the issues like gender equality in education and empowerment for women everywhere. Facing incredible odds, Malala overcome great obstacles to get where she is today. She is an example for students everywhere, and through her work, issues of inequality and access to education have been highlighted and addressed. Education is a right for individuals everywhere, and it is so important to have strong leaders like Malala to remind the global community how wide of an impact even one person can have. She became an international symbol of fight for girls' education after she was shot in 2012 for opposing Taliban's restrictions on female education in her home country of Pakistan. In 2009, Malala had begun writing a blog under a pseudonym about the increasing military activity in her hometown and about the fears that her school would be attacked. Despite the difficulties, being a brave and independent woman, she brought in a great revolution. She is indeed a great leader and an influencer in this era. As said, when you educate a man, you educate only a man, but when you educate a woman, you educate the entire generation. So the need of women's education shouldn't be ignored.
I'm proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true. I'm proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the persecuted and the refugees of all religions and all nations of the earth. I'm proud to tell you that I will quote to you people a few lines from a hymn which I remember to have repeated from my earliest boyhood, which is every day repeated by millions of human beings. As the different streams, having their sources in different places, all yield their water into thee, so, O Lord, the different paths which we take through different tendencies, various though they appear, crooked or straight, all lead to thee. The present convention, which is one of the most august assemblies ever held, is an itself a vindication, a declaration to the world of the wonderful doctrine preached in the Gita. Whosoever comes to me, through whatsoever form, I reach him. All men are struggling through paths which in the end lead to me. Sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant, fanaticism, have long possessed this beautiful earth. We have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed civilization, and sent whole nations to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. But their time is come, and I fervently hope that the bell that tolled this morning in honor of this convention may be the death knell of all fanaticism, of all persecutions with the sword or with the pen, and of all uncharitable feelings between persons wending their way to the same goal.
Unity in diversity has been coined as a term to the vast diverse lands of India by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, in his book Discovery of India. He explained that in spite of cultural, geographical and religious differences, India stands tall as a united country. India, often viewed as a land of oneness and brotherhood, has put its title of unity in diversity at stake
quite a number of times owing to the difference in opinions, thoughts, and ideologies of different sects of the Indian community. The riots that break out in today's time are not only alarming, but it is also surprising to see a nation which is regarded as the world's fastest developing country to indulge itself in such inane and inconsiderable riots. Standing at the threshold of a developed and civilized world where human rights stand at the apex of all considerations, experiencing these riots almost on a daily basis is utterly disheartening. In the year 2020 itself, India had registered around 857 cases of communal or religious rioting. It has been ranked as the fourth worst country in terms of religious and communal riots by the PEW American Survey Research Center. But surprisingly, a survey conducted by the same survey department finds out that about 85% of Hindus and 78% of Muslims, the two most massively populated sects of India, believe that respecting all religions is very important to being a true Indian. Hence, it isn't unclear that unity and harmony among different religions rest in the minds of the people of India, but it is for us to reinforce and harness that conviction and not exploit fault lines. We, the students of Julian Day School, Ganganagar, as the budding future of tomorrow, pledge to take the responsibility of strengthening bonds of brotherhood, unity, integrity, and to promote harmony irrespective of any religion, caste, creed, race, sect, or gender. And thus, we take a pledge today. National Pledge of India. India is my country. All Indians are my brothers and sisters. I love my country and I am proud of its rich and varied heritage. I shall always strive to be worthy of it. I shall give respect to my parents, teachers, and all elders and treat everyone with courtesy. To my country and my people, I pledge my devotion. In their well-being and prosperity alone lies my happiness.
We extend our gratitude to our Managing Trustee, Mrs. S.E. Broughton, and our Chairman, Mr. J.J. Broughton, for being our source of inspiration and encouragement. Our sincere regards to our Principal, Mr. Bobby Baxter, who has come up with this novel idea of introducing the Political Science magazine. Special thanks to our Vice Principal, Mr. Shantanu Mukherjee, our Teacher in Charge, Mr. Lionel Jennings, and our Junior School Coordinator, Mrs. Cheryl and they, for being our support system. Special mention to our Senior School Political Science teacher, Mrs. Taposhi Chatterjee, for coordinating in the making of this magazine, Manifesto. We would also like to thank the students for their active participation and their parents for encouraging them. Our heartfelt thanks to our viewers who encourage us with their love and support. Last but not the least, we would like to thank the Almighty for giving us the strength to move forth even in the times of a pandemic.